Good evening. My name is Miss Beth, or Beth Walken. I am the Services Librarian at the Door County Library in Sturgeon Bay, and I read a lot of graphic novels. So I'm interested in talking about graphic novels with kids, and I'm just going to run down some of the really cool stuff that I have been reading lately, both in the physical and also on Hoopla, which is one of the apps that we have that you can download for free. And 5 different things every single month are yours from Hoopla. So I read a lot of graphic novels on there. So let's start talking just very briefly about some of the kinds of things that I picked up. The really interesting stuff that's come out recently started off really with the Ms. Marvel stuff. And it started off with a female author. Now, Ms. Marvel is not Captain Marvel. This Ms. Marvel is a girl who lives in New Jersey. She lives in Jersey City, and she is a girl who is a devout Muslim, and her family are immigrants. And she, the uniform that she wears is quite modest. It's actually based on a modest version of a swimsuit. So she gets attacked by a Terrigen cloud, which is how they all get their mutation powers. And she then turns around and gets the Ms. Marvel stuff. She is super stretchy and strong and able to do all of these things. But at the same time that she is coming into being Ms. Marvel and being a superhero, she is also a junior in high school. And so she is she's trying to do all of those things. Meanwhile, her parents are very strict, and they don't want her to be out and to do all kinds of things. They want to protect her. And so she's having to learn with parents, and it's really hard. So there were 4 graphic novels in the first series that this author wrote. And then she left the series, and we continue the story with a different author. So this author right now, this author is Saladin Ahmed, and I just recently read both of these new Ms. Marvels, and he is doing a wonderful job. She is still interesting. She is still angsty because she's a teenager. She's fascinating, and I love this series. So this was one of the very first ones that came out. They came out right around the same time that Miles Morales became Spider-Man. And so here we go, straight out of Brooklyn. And Miles is Hispanic and black. His dad's black, his mom's Hispanic. He speaks Spanish frequently and fluently as part of his natural day. And he is a very bright kid going to a magnet school. So he gets bitten. His dad's a cop. You saw the Miles Morales Spider-Man movie, didn't you? That's how he got going. Anyway, all of these characters are in the book once again. And his uncle's there. So he did not lose his uncle in this. His uncle is back and is part of all of this stuff. And his dad actually had secrets that we didn't know about too. So this is very, very fun stuff. But instead of waiting for the next Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man movie to come out. So good. Oh my gosh. Go see it in the theater. If it ever happens again that we can go see things in the theater, I might try to show it on the great big screen at the library, actually, because wow, right? So this is a really wonderful continuation. So you don't have to wait for the next movie to come out. You can go and get the graphic novel. Graphic novels and movies are very fluid together. They work together really nicely because they transition back and forth between each other so smoothly, because graphic novels are words and images, and movies are words and images. But you can put a graphic novel together for a lot less money, and so you get a lot of really wonderful stuff coming out of that. So there we go. Those two, I wanted to point out that we are getting lots of the Avengers books. We are getting more Batman. We have lots and lots of back issues of like Daredevil, which I know is really, really pretty intense stuff too. And then things like James, which is an adventure friend story, takes place at a camp, a summer camp, with all of these girls. And that's a long running series too. So you can really get into these, dig into these stories really, really well. There are many, many, many graphic novels in the Sturgeon Bay Library in the teen section. If you go upstairs, next to the window in the teen section, there's this big brown cabinet, and it is just chock full of all different kinds of things that I have been gathering for a really long time. Some of them are old, some of them are new, all of them are really, really good, and I picked them for a reason. So you can do things on the paper version. You can come in and pick those up, but you can also onto Hoopla, which is the app that we have available, and it is free. You go in, you use your library card number and your PIN, and you sign in, and it lets you, because it knows that you belong with us, it lets you go ahead and choose 5 different things. So there's movies, and there's music, and there's TV shows, and there's books, and there's audiobooks, and there's graphic novels. Those are the biggies that are in there. I use it for graphic novels. I use it for graphic novels all the time. So in, what was it, January, February, I looked up lists of the very best graphic novels that had come out for teens and adults in 2019. I wanted to go back and see if I'd missed anything, and see if there was anything that was really, really good that made the list. I came up with a list that was this long, and I started 5 at a time every month, going in and looking for them in Hoopla. Almost every single one of them was in Hoopla. I think there were only like 50, 60. There were only maybe 6 or 8 that weren't in Hoopla. And several of those were ones that I had in paper available. So yeah, we're getting a lot of really, really good stuff. But let me run down just a short list of some of the things that are available on Hoopla that I have read and really, really enjoyed. And there were a lot more things on this list, but on this list includes The Mighty Thor. Okay, so this is Thor stuff, but this is Thor as Dr. Jane Foster. Okay, Dr. Jane Foster, who was Thor's love interest, right? Now, here's the problem in these new Thors. She's Thor, right? She had the moral authority to be able to pick up the hammer, but she has cancer. Every time she picks up the hammer, it sets her cancer treatment back. So every time she picks up the hammer, it resets things for her. So it heals her injuries, but it also is encouraging the cancer. So every time she changes over into Thor, it's killing her. So fascinating stuff. Oh my gosh, very, very angsty. And Yeah, so somebody who's Thor who really would rather not be Thor. So cool stuff. Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. So, saw the Captain Marvel movie? Yes, that was really fun. Went back because I hadn't done it in advance. Went back and read an awful lot of Captain Marvel. And actually, I started that when I heard the Captain Marvel movie was going to come out. I started looking at those things. But there's an awful lot of backstory for Captain Marvel and filling in all of those little nooks and crannies, because the movie only has 2 hours, maybe max, to be able to tell you about what it wants to tell you about. These graphic novels, you know, that much is a 2-hour movie. So you can really go in and be able to figure all this stuff out pretty easily, and really fill in the space, which is really cool. Then there's weird stuff. Let's see. James Bond's origin story. That was really fun because I'd always wondered where James Bond came from, because I thought he had sprung fully formed in the shape of Sean Connery, which is really fun and kind of true, but this was a backstory for him. So they had James Bond's origin story. Speaking of origin stories, Harleen, which was Harley Quinn's origin story, which was branding really, really neat. Very focused on just Harley, not focused on the Joker. So she was, this whole thing about her being his sidekick is fine and is canon, but I'm not really all that interested in Joker. I am so done with Joker myself, personally. So I want to know more about Harley, and she's lots of fun. So Harleen, which was the origin story, a reboot of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer books. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer, for those kids for whom Buffy is from before you were born. Okay. Okay, so there's demons and there's vampires and there's bad guys, okay? Evil bad guys. There is one girl who has the power to be able to slay the vampires and all of these other monsters. She is able to do all of these things. It's passed from girl to girl to girl. So a teenage girl gets this power, and she is trained to fight. This group called the Watchers find her, train her how to fight, help her do her thing, and then inevitably she's killed within a year or two. And another girl who has the potential to do this then gets the calling, and they go to the next girl. And so it went for many, many, many thousands of years. And then Buffy Summers shows up. Buffy Summers is not only a young Californian with a bit of feist, she is also a really good fighter. And her Watcher is very capable and actually can fight beside her because he's young and strong and capable enough to be able to fight with her. So that's the television show that ran for, 8 years, something like. I enjoyed that TV show an awful lot. When it finally stopped running, the guy who put it together, his name is Joss Whedon. You may have heard of him. He directed The Avengers. He then formed a graphic novel that did the next season, so season 8 and season 9. So 7 seasons. So 7 seasons. Then season 8 and season 9 then happened as graphic novels. So he continued on their story. Well, we just recently completely rebooted the graphic novel. So there's a whole bunch of really cool Buffy stuff that's very familiar, but he took it in a slightly different direction. Very fun stuff. Anyway, the Buffy reboot, lots and lots of fun. Okay, how about other things? So I'm looking here. Okay, so I seen Captain Marvel come up and gone, oh my gosh, how fun. James Bond, I love it. Buffy, I love it. There's this movie out called The Old Guard. Okay, Charlize Theron. Anyway, the old guard, and they're mercenaries, but they're very, very old, basically unkillable mercenaries. The old guard that movie was based on a graphic novel. We have it in Hoopla, and I liked the graphic novel a little bit. It was awful, but a little bit better was the graphic novel. It followed really closely, but there's some stuff that they had to leave out of the movie that made interesting sense for the graphic novel. So absolutely, if you saw The Old Guard and really liked it, and it's an R, it's a scary, it's lots of blood. But if you saw it and you're interested, The Old Guard, the graphic novel, is on Hoopla. Okay, blood, gore, all of that other good stuff. Once and Future is a reworking of the Arthurian legends. Okay, so you got a guy who doesn't realize that he has been raised to basically take on this role. He is going to be, I think he's Gawain, actually. But they're not people, they're roles. So we have monsters, we have bad guys, we have parents who tell lies to their children and keep them in the dark about stuff that they really shouldn't. There's all kinds of really cool stuff that they have been doing. So that is going on. And Once and Future, I love that one. I'm waiting for the next book in the series to come out. Speaking of waiting for the next book in the series, Bitter Root. It takes place in New Orleans. It is a family of monster hunters. The monsters that they are hunting are white people. It's a black family. They're white people who turn into monsters because they're infected with this very nasty strain of racism. So the more racist and nasty they get, the more likely it is that they're going to turn into these monsters. So they're doing kind of a catch and release. They capture these monsters, they're trying not to kill them, and then they give them the antidote and then turn them loose, because then they're just white folks. They're not monsters. Very interesting metaphors going on there. Bitter Root is the name of that one. Oh, let's see, what else? Okay. So when Nathan Hale came to the schools in spring, I read all the Nathan Hale books. Well, the Nathan Hale books were incredibly hard to get at the time. I had them at the library. They were all checked out. Everybody was really excited. Every single one of the Nathan Hale books is on Hoopla. I looked at all of those that way. Manifest Destiny is the name of a series. It's about Lewis and Clark, the Lewis and Clark expedition. So Manifest Destiny. But they are sent into the territory, and there are monsters. There are scary, scary, horrible monsters. Every time they had sent somebody into the interior, they had never returned. They would die. And so Lewis and Clark go in with the understanding that they're going to go as far as they can and see what is out there and try to stop the monstrous threat so that the area can be inhabited by the settlers from the east. So very cool stuff. So they're going into these very scary situations, and there's lots and lots of personal interactions between the different guys on the expedition and the people who they're having as the Sacagawea character is just fantastic. She is just so hardcore. And yeah, but it goes on. I think we're on book 8 of the Manifest Destiny stuff, and I just got book 8, so I'm very excited. Let's see, one more. I just read Venom, the new Venom by Donny Cates. Now, Donny Cates reimagined Venom you know about Venom? Venom is like a symbiote with a guy. There was also a movie, symbiote with a guy, and the symbiote is an alien, and the movie's kind of dark, and the story's kind of dark, and the previous Venom's interactions have been kind of dark. This is darker. This is dark stuff, but really really good dark stuff. So anyway, that's just a tiny little taste. A few things that I thought were really good that I wanted to tell you guys about. And honestly, if we have anybody who wants to talk graphic novels with me on next month's Zoom teen book discussion, we can talk books, we can talk graphic novels, we can talk pop culture if you want to. I would just love to talk. So meet me on Zoom next time. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you again. Bye-bye.